Welcome to the Manuscript project, everyone. Today we're going to work in Adobe InDesign and we're going to do a spread of an article and we're going to lay it out in the style of an old manuscript. On my screen you're looking at a Bible that was printed by Johann Gutenberg in the 1450s. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow this page layout for our design. And what I mean by the page layout, let's take a look at this print here. We're going to use the same kind of margin. So you notice we have the wider margins, the text is set in there. And back in the 20th century, some designers went and they started measuring these old prints and these old books, and they started to look at them and they tried to figure out how did they measure them, how did they make them look so harmonious, and they came up with an interesting system of how to do it without having actual measurements. So we're going to work on what is called the Vandra Canon. And the Vandra Canon is using a series of lines to find your actual margins here. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide it into 1/9 and 2/9 for the page. And that way everything is nice and proportional and we end up with that harmonious design. So our goal in this project is to design these two spreads. So this article is coming from Wikipedia. It's called The Canons of Page Construction, and we're going to lay it out nicely using the canons of page construction. So our goal, we're going to set this up. So let's go ahead and let's get started. First things first, we always got to start with a new document. And we're going to start out in inches. We're going to go 8.5 inches wide by 11 inches tall. We're going to make it facing pages. There are 4 pages total, and we want to start at page 2. The reason why we're starting at page 2 is I want 2 spreads. And go ahead and hit create. So now that we have our new file, we are going to start putting on our lines to figure out the Graaf Canon. So before we begin, we want to work on our parent page. So go ahead, double click your parent and make a new layer. We're going to name our first layer guides, and we're going to turn off the printing. The reason we're doing this, I don't want those to print. I just want them to help me find the margins for our page. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and start drawing our lines. I'm going to zoom out slightly. Grab your line tool, and you can go ahead. I like to use just magenta for this. And we're going to start with our lines. And I'm just going to draw straight across. Go to the other corner. Do it again. Straight across. This would find our midpoint. Now, obviously, in our design program, it's easy. We can see our midpoint right there. But that is the first line that we find. The second one we're going to do is we're going to start from the corner. We're going to go up to the top middle. Go to the other bottom corner and do the same thing. So now, whoops, I kind of missed that one a little bit. Let's try that one more time. So first we found our middle. Now we draw these two to the midpoint. So now we have our cross, and this will help determine the size of our page. Now what we need to find is where do we start our top left corner here. So the way to do that is we draw a line straight up from our intersection here. Hold shift as you go to make the line straight up. And then we come from this intersection here and we draw a line up to this point. And when we do that, we identify where our top left corner for our Graaf Canon to start. So this is going to perfectly divide this page in the 9ths and give us those nice proportions. So what we're going to do is now we're going to place a box. We're going to use our rectangle frame tool, and we're going to place a box starting at this point, going over, and notice where we intersect. That's how wide our text box should be. And then we come down. When we intersect this line, that is where our text box stops. So that right there, and we can go ahead and we can give it we can fill it with the magenta if we want. That right there would be the dividing this page into ninths, and this is how the Graaf Canon works. So what we're going to do, we could duplicate this on the other side, but what I'm really going to do is take a series of measurements because I want to go ahead and set this margin to this size. So the easiest way to do this is just to use our tools here. Now, we're going to figure out the top margin first. So we're going to just draw a box, and we're going to go to our properties panel, and notice it's going to tell me this box is 1.22 inches. And I could easily put that in there, but my preference now is to really work in picas, because picas are an easier measurement system. It won't give me all those fractionals. So in this one, the height would be 7p4. So we can go to Layout, Margins and Columns, uncheck this one, and for the top margin, we just want it to be 7p4. Click OK. Next measurement I'm going to take is from the inside to that box. That width is 5p9. So the inside is going to be 5p9. There we go, and notice how it's setting it up on the left as well. Let's figure out our outside margin. Our outside is 11p2. There we go. And we got one more measurement to go. Our bottom is 4p5. Must have done that one wrong, sorry. Should have done the height, because that's 4p would not be correct. The height of this one is 14p5, sorry. Layout, margins, oops, the wrong one. Layout, margins and columns. Bottom should be 14p5. There we go. Go ahead and delete that, and we can even delete our box there. And you notice now, using this system, the Graaf Canon, we have now established the margins for our page. So we can go ahead and lock our guides, select layer 1, and let's just go to page 2, 3. And you notice we are pretty much ready to go. I can even turn off those guides. I don't need them now. So now that we have our page laid out, it's time to start putting our content on here. So let's go ahead. I have a Word document. And what you guys are going to do is you're going to copy the Word document onto here. There's our Word document. And we're going to go ahead, grab our Type tool, and starting on page 3, just click, drag, and just paste, Control V. Now we can use our threading, and we can go to the next page, click there, use our threading, go to the next page, click there. So we have a good start to our page design. We have everything here. Now we're going to start laying out the actual typography, and we're going to start setting some styles up. So first things first, I'm going to make a new paragraph style. And on this new paragraph style, I'm going to call it body. And we're going to go ahead and set some body tags. So I need you to go to fonts.adobe.com, and I want you to search for a font. The font name is Saban. And I'm picking this because John Tishold is one of the designers that went and looked at the canons and popularized these, and this was his actual font. So I want you to go ahead and install the font, and we have regular, italic, bold, and bold italic. So we're going to use all of these in this design. So once you get it installed, you should be able to choose that font, Saban, regular. And we are going to go with a 10-point size, and we're going to do the leading at 12 point. Some other things I always do when I'm laying out books, I decide if I need hyphenation or not. Generally, I can go ahead and turn that off. And we're going to go ahead and click OK. Now, we're going to select everything, and we're just going to hit the word body. And let's sit back and look. So there's one issue I have already. How can you tell where the individual paragraphs begin? So there's two items I can lay this out. If this was a business document, I would go through and I would add paragraph spacing below each paragraph. But this is not a business document. This is a book. We're doing a book design. So instead, we are going to go ahead and set some indents for the body. So let's go to our indents and spacing, and our left indent, we are going to make it, let's see, let's try 1 pica, let's see. Whoops, wrong one. Should have been the first line indent, not the left indent. Left indent is 0. And first line indent, let's try 1 pica. We have the preview here. Let's see. First line indent, there you go, see? So we have a nice 12-point indent right there for the first paragraph. Now, we're going to change some items, we're going to turn that off and on, but that is a good start. We can see where the paragraphs begin and end. We can also start setting up our text boxes. Our text boxes, we're going to lay them out with 2 columns. So if you grab your text box, and we can just set our text frame to 2 columns. Set this one to 2 columns. And finally set this one to 2 columns. So now things are already starting to look a lot better. Let's go ahead and let's define the rest of our page. You'll notice in here we have a few headers. So we got to get the Graaf Canon as well as the Golden Canon. And then you notice we have a second level of headers, my H2s here. So we got to get these H2s as well. So let's go ahead and let's set up 2 levels of headers. So let's make a new paragraph style. On this paragraph style, we're not gonna base it on anything. We're gonna call it heading 1. Heading 1, we're gonna go ahead and set this up for bold. And we're gonna make this 16, and we can keep the leading what it is, and go ahead and hit OK. So let's get our heading 1s. So canons of page construction, this is actually gonna go over here. So let's go ahead and let's put our title over here. Our heading 1s, that was the Graaf Canon. That was also, let's see which one here, Golden Canon. There we go, another heading right there. It was also, I think it was only those 2. And the Golden Canon. Yep, the rest of the other ones are smaller heading 2s. So as we go through, our heading 2s were John Mann's Interpretation, that was a heading 2. So let's go ahead and make our heading 2. New paragraph style. This one can be based on heading 1. We'll call it heading 2. And on this one, our size is going to be 11. So our headings 2 were John Mann's Interpretation. It was also, which one? Oh, Interpretation of Rosario. That was our heading 2. And let's just make sure there aren't any others. Tishold and the Golden Ratio was the other one. This one right here. These were our heading 2s. Ooh. There we go. And yep, Golden Canon. There we go. So we have defined all our headers, Everything looks good so far. You've probably noticed on the headers that they are indented, so we need to fix that. Easiest way is we can just go and we can modify our heading 1, and we can go to our indents and spacing, and all we got to do is turn off that first line indent. Go down to 0. Click OK. And you're going to notice that these both go where they belong, as well as our heading 2s, because they are based on the heading 1. And that is the beauty of using styles. We can quickly and easily make different changes. Now, we still got a few more things to do before we're ready. We have a few more typesetting rules we need to take care of. So first things first, I want you to notice as we go across, notice some of these lines aren't lining up anymore across. We want to set what's called a baseline grid. So a baseline grid, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on. It's going to help make sure all of our lines align going across. So these are actually pretty good. They're pretty aligned, but let's go ahead and let's set our baseline grid. So we're going to go to InDesign, Preferences, and we're going to go to Grids. And right here is our baseline grid. We're going to make an increment every 12 points. And we're going to go ahead and hit OK. We can make it relative to the top margin in this case. And click OK. And then if you want to view your grids, you go to Grids and Guides. Thought it was there. Never mind. Oh, Show Baseline Grid. And you guys can see our baseline grid. Now notice it has this space at the top. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Sometimes you do that space if you have running heads and stuff. We do not have a running head. So let's go ahead and let's go back to grids. And we're going to start at 0. And there you go. Notice we have our running baseline grid. Now, we need to get this text set on our baseline grid. And to do that, I believe we need to go back to our paragraph style, and we need to tell it to align all lines to the grid. And notice as soon as I check that, all of our lines go to the grid. We can also do that for our headings. If we go to indents and spacing, all lines align to a grid, or we could do first line only. It depends on how your titles are, but I'm going to say all lines because I know it works. And notice now, everything is nicely designed going across. It fits beautifully into these grids, and everything looks good. The next thing we're going to work on is a few typographic details. So I can go ahead and I can hide my grid at the moment, or we could just go into preview mode because they will hide for us. And let's work on some typographic details. So one thing, whenever we start and we're using indents, our first paragraphs are never indented. So we can do a new style, or we can just turn off the indent. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the indent for the first paragraph. And I'm going to go ahead and start out, we're going to use a drop cap. And to use a drop cap, you go into your first paragraph, and we turn it on. We're going to drop it 3. And if we need extra characters, we could do extra, but I'm just going to do the first character. So now that's nice and set up. Under each header, I need you to go and just get rid of that first line indent. So under each one of these, and these are just these typographic details, and these are things I am looking at when you lay out items. I want to make sure you're thinking these are those details that make you look like a professional. All right, there we go. So we have all of those laid out. Now, let's get to designing. So the next thing we're going to add to our page, and let's go back to the normal view, we're going to add some figures. So I have 3 different figures to add to this. Figure 1, go ahead and hit open. We're going to place figure 1 up in this top right corner. So I'm just going to click, drag, I'm going to place my image, And then I'm going to turn on my text wrap. And this one, I just want it to wrap around the bounding box. And the beauty of using the baseline grid, notice the lines just go straight down, everything's there. And we can go ahead and we can grab our figure 1 and we can make a new caption for figure 1. So our captions up here, we're going to run these out in the margins, and I just want you to draw a box. I want you to go ahead and paste it, and then we're going to make one new paragraph style, and we're going to call it caption. It can be based on body. It's going to be italic, and we're going to bring the captions down to 8 point, and we don't need any indents, so let's go ahead and turn off our indents. Click OK, and then we're just going to call that a caption. And there you go. Looks good. We can probably ignore the baseline grid on these. That's not necessary. So if you go to your indents and spacing, you can say first line only and click OK. So that way it'll start nice and lined up, and that's where it ends. So there's our first figure. Our second figure, we're going to place it here with the golden canon. So let's go ahead, let's place figure 2 with the golden canon. And again, we are going to just wrap around the box. And again, figure 2 right here. I'm going to go ahead, cut, make a new text box right next to it. I'm going to paste it. And again, we're going to set that up as a caption. There we go. And I know that is nice and aligned. Maybe make it a little closer. Oops, just enough. There we go. That looks good. And now figure 3, we're going to run figure 3 right here at the end. So let's go ahead and let's get our last piece. I'm going to cut it. And we're going to put a new text box out here for figure 3. Caption. And now let's go ahead and let's place figure 3. And I'm going to click and drag. And on this one, we can set the text wrap. It really doesn't matter because it's already there. And now, if you look at that, we have a nice looking manuscript where everything is getting nice and laid out and fitting the way it is. There are a few other details that were inside of that page. One of them, I would like to go ahead and set this quote. So this quote right here, we're going to make a full indent on the second page. So this was that quote. And for a quote like this, we are going to set it in italic, and we're going to do an indent like that. And let's go ahead and set it italic. And that way it kind of sticks it out a little bit. It looks even better. Couple other small details I am noticing. As I'm designing this page looks good. I'm looking now for the orphans and widows. This page looks great. This page looks pretty good. You know what? Let's get rid of that indent. I don't think we need an indent on that one. Take that down to 0. So this page looks great, but we have one issue. If you notice right here, I have the orphan of the golden ratio. This last 2 little words, move to the next page. I don't need that. So what we're going to do, we are going to take this up 1 line. And then to match, we'll take this up 1 line as well. And then we can pull this down a little bit and have it fit. And the reason why we're doing this, I know we kind of fell out of the bottom there, but we want to avoid having just that. So as a designer, it's up to you. You have to go through and try to fix some of those things, whatever you can actually fix. So now that this is nicely laid out, we're going to go ahead and just finish up our design. So to finish up our design, we are going to make our title page. So for this, I have one more image to place, and I found it on Pexels, and it is the Nautilus shell. And people always talk about this when we talk about the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence. And it's funny, watch as we place this image, what happens. So let's go ahead, make it to the full page size. Come on, don't fight me. All right, but notice he almost fits perfectly inside of that for this page. So what we're gonna do is just scale him up a little bit, and we can make him fit perfectly inside that. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send this back. So object, arrange, send to back. And then let's just go ahead and let's build our title. So our title has no indent. And then we are going to go 48 tall. We're gonna make it bold. So at 48 tall, it looks really good, but we're going to get rid of some of that leading. Oops, come on. Take him down to 52. And you'll notice he is actually aligned to our baseline grid. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make a new paragraph style. We'll call it title. Or no paragraph style. And let's go ahead and turn off the alignment. Yeah, we're going to say none. Hit OK. And we're going to give him that title style right there. And there we go. We have the canons of page construction. And we can decide where exactly we want it. And if we want to give him a nice color, we can select the text. We can use our eyedropper tool. And we could eyedrop. Whoops, I want the text to be the color. Let me select the text. We can eyedrop inside the shell, and that way we get a nice color to go with it. Let's make one more little change. We're going to add the word the in front of the title. We're going to call it the canons of page construction. That would sound correct. And then last but not least, let's go ahead and let's give credit, because we can't just take a bunch of text and use it. We have to give credit for the text. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab a text box, and I'm going to draw it along the bottom down here, and we're going to give our credit down here. So first off, make sure you're using the body paragraph style, and you can turn off that first indent. We'll go 0 there. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Word, and at the very bottom of Word, I've already written the two statements. So the source right here for our picture, go ahead, copy, put it in there, hit enter, and let's do the other one. The source right here for our text. And let's go ahead and put that in there. There we go. Now, if it's too big, we can go ahead and we can bring it down a little bit. So maybe not 10 point, maybe 9 point. I think that looks a little bit better. And then the next item I would do on this one, let's zoom in. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add some hyperlinks, because we should link to these sources if we really want to do this correctly. So the first thing, let's go ahead and let's build the sources for our picture. So orange and white seashell on white surface. We're going to go ahead and link this to the picture. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to Window, and we're going to go to Interactive and Hyperlinks. And in here, we can just paste that URL, and it ought to make that. It's by Pixabay, so we're going to go at Pixabay right here, the next link down. Found it on Pexels. Funny how that works. So add another link. And then finally, it's a CC0, which is public domain, but I go ahead and I'm going to link to the license to make sure that it is correct, because I'm trying to teach you guys how to attribute items. And the next one, text is from the Canons of Page Construction. So now we're going to link to that one. And that was by Wikipedia. and it's licensed under the Attribute by 4.0. So to be in compliance, I would actually have to make sure that this statement is on here. And last but not least, I'm just leaving a note that I remove the footnote so that way people know exactly what I've done. And now that that's done, we might stretch this out so it's just 2 lines. Let's see. I think that'll be okay. Let me go ahead and zoom out, take a look, put it in preview mode, and everything is looking really good. Make sure you save the document. And then last but not least, I need you guys to go ahead and we're going to export this file. Now, I want to export it so we see the spread in the PDF. So I don't want 4 pages. I want it to be 2 spreads. So what you're going to do is you're going to go File, Export. You're going to tell the format to be PDF. And we can choose, let's go ahead and choose Print. And I want you to go ahead and hit Save. And inside here, we need to make a couple changes. So first off, we're going to export. We're going to tell it to export as spreads. So change it, yours is probably on pages, change it to spreads. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that we include our hyperlinks. Mine's already checked, but click on Include Hyperlinks, and then go ahead and hit Export. And that is going to build you a PDF file that shows in spreads and has working hyperlinks. And with that, you should be done with this project. So just let me know if you have any issues.